I accidentally saw a message on my son-in-law's phone. If he finds out the truth, get rid of him. My heart stopped in shock, but I decided to act first, turning an ordinary family evening into a trap. 40 minutes later, the police arrived and betrayal turned into justice. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The papers hit my coffee table with such force that my evening tea splashed onto the mahogany surface my late wife had polished for 30 years. Delmar didn't even knock, just barged through my front door like he owned the place, clutching a thick manila folder against his expensive suit jacket. "Cornelius, we need to talk." His voice carried that aggressive edge I'd grown to recognize over the past few months. No greeting, no apology for the intrusion, just demand. I set down my evening paper, noting how his usually perfect hair was disheveled, his tie loosened despite the early evening hour. Sweat beaded on his forehead, though the May air was pleasant enough. "Good evening to you too, Delmar." I kept my voice steady, reaching for a napkin to clean the spilled tea. "What's so urgent it couldn't wait for a phone call?" He paced behind my leather armchair, expensive shoes clicking against the hardwood floors Margaret and I had installed 20 years ago. "This is about family security, your security." He jabbed a finger at the scattered documents. "You're getting older. What if something happens to you? Clara would feel safer if the house was in my name." The audacity struck me speechless for a moment. I picked up the top document, immediately recognizing the legal letterhead. Property transfer papers. My engineering mind automatically began analyzing the details, searching for inconsistencies the way I'd once examined blueprints for manufacturing defects. This house belonged to my parents, then to my wife and me, and now it belongs to me. Only me. I flipped through the pages, my trained eye catching subtle irregularities in the signatures. When exactly did I supposedly sign these? Delmar stopped pacing, his jaw tightened. "Last Tuesday, don't you remember? We discussed it over dinner." But I remembered that Tuesday clearly. Clara had made her famous pot roast, and we'd talked about the grandchildren's school performance. Nothing about property transfers, nothing about signatures. The forged signature stared back at me from the transfer documents, a crude imitation of the handwriting I'd perfected over 68 years of life. The pressure was wrong. The angle was off. Even the ink color seemed different from what I typically used. "Don't be a stubborn old man," Delmar's voice rose, desperation bleeding through his authoritative facade. "I know what's best for this family." I stood slowly, my full height still impressive despite my age. "What you know, Delmar, is that these signatures are fake." I pushed the papers away from me with deliberate force. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" His face flushed red, then pale. "You're imagining things. Age does that to people. Age teaches people to recognize deception." I moved toward the window, putting distance between us while keeping the documents in view. "Tell me about your gambling debts." The question hit its target. Delmar's confident posture crumbled slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The new BMW you couldn't afford on a logistics manager's salary. The Caribbean vacation Clara mentioned that you paid for in cash. The phone calls you take in private, always ending with you looking worried." I turned to face him directly. "How much do you owe?" "That's none of your business, old man." "It became my business the moment you tried to steal my house." The grandfather clock in the corner chimed 8 o'clock, its familiar sound oddly comforting in the growing tension. "Did you practice my signature, or did someone else forge it for you?" Delmar's mask slipped entirely, his hands clenched into fists. "You have no idea what kind of people I'm dealing with. This house could solve everything. Clara would understand if you just disappeared one day. Natural causes, heart attack, these things happen to old men." The threat hung in the air like smoke. I'd suspected desperation, but not this level of dangerous thinking. My son-in-law wasn't just a gambler with debts. He was a man considering violence against family. "Get out of my house." My voice carried the authority I'd developed managing factory floors in Detroit. "Take your forged papers with you." "This isn't over, Cornelius. I'll find another way." "I'm sure you will, but it won't involve my property or my family." He swept the documents off the table with one angry motion, papers scattering across the floor like autumn leaves. "You'll regret this stubbornness." The front door slammed with enough force to rattle the picture frames on the mantel, but it was the silence that followed that truly unsettled me. After Delmar's tires squealed away from my driveway, I spent 20 minutes staring at the scattered papers before gathering them into neat piles. My hands still trembled slightly as I switched on the bright kitchen overhead light. The fluorescent bulb revealed details that the warm living room lamplight had obscured. I spread the documents across my kitchen table, the same surface where Margaret and I had reviewed 30 years of tax returns, mortgage papers, and insurance policies. From my small home office, I retrieved my magnifying glass and a folder of authentic documents for comparison. Quality control engineering had taught me to examine every detail methodically. What appears correct at first glance often reveals flaws under closer scrutiny. The signature analysis confirmed my suspicions immediately. My authentic signature from a recent bank document showed consistent pen pressure and fluid motion. The forged version displayed hesitation marks, uneven ink distribution, and incorrect letter formations. Someone had practiced, but not enough to fool an engineer's eye. These signatures, they're not mine. When did he have time to practice them? I muttered to myself, comparing 3 different attempts across multiple pages. The forger had improved slightly with each try, but fundamental flaws remained obvious. The document dates created another problem. According to the transfer papers, I'd signed them on various dates over the past month. But I kept detailed calendars, a habit from my working years. On 2 of those dates, I'd been visiting my sister in San Diego. On another, I'd been in the hospital for a routine procedure Clara had insisted upon. Memory triggered additional concerns. Delmar always lived beyond his means. New BMW, Caribbean vacations, expensive dinners at restaurants I knew cost more than his weekly salary. Where did the money come from? And more importantly, where had it gone? I pulled out a yellow legal pad and began creating a timeline. Engineering problems required systematic analysis. What did I know? Delmar had significant debts from gambling. He'd attempted to forge property transfer documents. He'd made veiled threats about my health and safety. What didn't I know? The extent of his debts, his timeline for repayment, whether Clara suspected anything, whether this was his first illegal scheme or part of a pattern. What did I need to find out? Everything. I dialed Elvin Gordon's number. My lawyer and longtime friend would know how to handle forged legal documents. But the call went straight to voicemail. "Elvin, it's Cornelius. I need to discuss some urgent legal matters. Please call me as soon as possible." The coffee maker gurgled to life as I set it for a full pot. This would be a long night. I needed to understand the full scope of Delmar's deception before making any moves. The refrigerator hummed steadily, its familiar sound mixing with distant traffic from the suburban Glendale streets. Normal evening sounds for a normal evening. Except nothing about this evening felt normal anymore. Returning to the documents, I discovered additional inconsistencies. The legal language didn't match previous authentic papers I'd signed for estate planning. Certain phrases seemed copied from internet templates rather than prepared by qualified attorneys. An engineer approaches problems systematically, identify the issue, gather data, analyze patterns, develop solutions, test hypotheses. Margaret always said I had an eye for detail. The same skill that helped me catch manufacturing defects in Detroit now revealed my son-in-law's deception. But this wasn't about faulty car parts or production line problems. This was about family, about trust, about protecting Clara and my grandchildren from a man whose desperation had clearly overcome his judgment. The grandfather clock chimed 10:30. I'd been analyzing documents for over 2 hours, but the evidence was overwhelming. Delmar had attempted to steal my house through fraud. The question now was how to protect my family without destroying Clara's marriage or traumatizing my grandchildren. I needed fresh air and my wife's garden to clear my head before making any moves. I slept restlessly, waking before dawn, with Margaret's voice echoing in my dreams, then waited until the morning sun touched the roses before stepping outside. The morning air carried the scent of blooming jasmine, a stark contrast to the bitter taste of betrayal still lingering from the night before. Margaret's climbing roses cascaded along the back fence, their pink blooms heavy with morning dew. I adjusted the sprinkler system she'd designed, ensuring each plant received adequate water. Gardening had become my meditation, the closest thing to prayer I practiced anymore. Margaret always said, "Cornelius, family is everything we have. But what do you do when part of the family threatens the other part? I whispered to the yellow roses she'd planted for our 25th anniversary. The kitchen window reflected my image as I dead-headed spent blooms. Behind the glass, family photographs covered the refrigerator door. Clara's wedding day, beaming beside Delmar in his rented tuxedo. My grandchildren's school pictures, gap-toothed smiles and cow-licked hair. Holiday gatherings around my dining room table. How could I protect these people without destroying what held us together? My phone buzzed. Clara's name appeared on the screen. "Dad, how are things? Delmar said you two argued yesterday." Her voice carried that worried tone she'd inherited from her mother. I measured my words carefully. "Don't worry, sweetheart. Just some disagreement about paperwork. You know I hate when you two fight. Can't you just get along?" The pleading in her voice reminded me of her childhood, when she'd beg Margaret and me to stop arguing about household decisions. "We'll work it out. How are my grandchildren? Tommy lost his first tooth yesterday, and Sarah made honor roll again." Pride filled her voice, temporarily displacing the worry. "They want to visit Grandpa's garden this weekend. They're always welcome here." I watched a hummingbird hover near Margaret's favorite feeder. "Clara, has Delmar seemed stressed lately? About work, maybe?" A pause. Too long. "Why do you ask?" "Just grandfather's intuition. He seemed tense yesterday." "Everyone has work stress, Dad. His company is expanding. Lots of pressure." But her voice lacked conviction. "Listen, I need to get ready for school. Love you." "Love you too, sweetheart." The call ended, leaving me with more questions than answers. Clara knew something was wrong, but she was protecting Delmar the way Margaret had once protected me during my difficult periods at the factory. As I deadheaded the climbing roses Margaret had trained along the back fence, I wondered how many other deceptions had been growing in the shadows of our family. Delmar's expensive lifestyle, his mysterious phone calls, his sudden interest in my property. Margaret understood people. I understood systems. Together, we raised Clara right. But we'd also raised her to see the best in everyone, to avoid conflict, to trust her husband's judgment. Those virtues had become vulnerabilities. The morning sun climbed higher, warming my shoulders as I worked among the flowers. Bird songs mixed with the distant sound of a neighbor's lawnmower, normal suburban Saturday morning sounds. But nothing felt normal anymore. After my morning in the garden, I needed answers only Clara could provide, though she didn't know she had them. I arrived at Maple Leaf Cafe 15 minutes early, claiming the corner table with a clear view of the entrance. The Saturday afternoon crowd buzzed with families and weekend shoppers, creating the perfect cover for a conversation that needed to appear casual. Clara rushed through the door at 2:10, tablet clutched against her purse, hair slightly windswept from her morning errands. She spotted me immediately, waving with the same bright smile that had melted my heart for 42 years. "Sorry I'm late, Dad. Had to pick up supplies for Monday's art class." She settled into the booth across from me, placing her tablet on the worn wooden surface. "This place hasn't changed since I was little. Your mother always said their apple pie reminded her of her grandmother's recipe." I signaled the waitress, grateful for familiar routines that masked my racing thoughts. "How was school shopping?" "Expensive as always, but worth it for the kids." Clara's eyes lit up as she opened her tablet, swiping to a photo album. "Look at these drawings from last week's assignment." The device looked new, sleek, expensive, far beyond what a teacher's budget typically allowed for personal purchases. I noted the leather case, the premium screen protector, the way she handled it with casual ownership rather than careful reverence. "That's quite a nice tablet. Anniversary gift?" I kept my tone light, genuinely interested. "Delmar surprised me with it last month, said I deserved something nice for all my hard work." Her fingers danced across the screen with practiced ease. "He's been so thoughtful lately." The waitress approached, interrupting my analysis. We ordered our usual, Clara's chicken Caesar salad, my grilled cheese and tomato soup, comfort food that matched the comfortable lie we were both maintaining. "Dad, Delmar has been working so much lately, constantly traveling to important meetings." Clara's voice carried pride mixed with concern. "Sometimes he doesn't get home until after midnight." "Do you know who he's meeting with? Maybe new business partners?" "No, he says it's boring work stuff. I trust him completely." She scrolled through more student artwork, her attention divided between family conversation and professional pride. "He's working hard for our family. Trust him completely." The words hit like a physical blow. My daughter's absolute faith in a man planning to steal her inheritance, possibly worse. Trust is good, but sometimes it's worth taking interest in. I began carefully. Dad, you sound like you don't trust him. He's working hard for our family. Clara's defensive tone reminded me of her teenage years, protecting boyfriends from parental scrutiny. These European vacation packages he found are amazing deals. We're thinking about Paris this summer. European vacation packages. On a logistics manager's salary with a teacher's income. The mathematics didn't work, but Clara had never been interested in household finances. She taught children to add and subtract while remaining blissfully ignorant of adult financial realities. Our food arrived, providing a natural pause in conversation. I watched Clara eat, noting her genuine happiness, her complete lack of worry about money or security. She lived in a world where loving husbands worked late to provide nice surprises, where European vacations materialized through fortunate deals, where family arguments resolved themselves through patient understanding. The kids are so excited about visiting your garden tomorrow. She showed me photos of Tommy and Sarah from their school performance. Sarah keeps asking when she can help plant something new. She has your mother's green thumb. The grandfather clock in my chest ticked steadily, marking time until I had to shatter this innocent world. Clara, if you ever needed help with anything, financial or otherwise, you know you can come to me. Dad, we're doing fine. Better than fine, actually. She leaned forward conspiratorially. Delmar's been talking about maybe getting a bigger house soon, something closer to the kids' school. A bigger house? With whose money? The answer sat in my home office, photographed and documented. But Clara couldn't know that yet. Maybe never, if I could protect her from the truth. Well, you'll always have the family home as backup. I stirred my soup slowly, buying time to process her revelations. Your mother would want you to know that. I know, Dad, and I appreciate it, but Delmar takes good care of us. She glanced at her expensive watch, another gift she mentioned casually. He should be home from his business trip by dinner time. Business trip. More lies she accepted without question, woven into a fabric of deception that would unravel spectacularly when the truth emerged. We finished lunch with dessert and coffee, Clara showing me more photos of the grandchildren, discussing their upcoming school events, maintaining the illusion of normal family life. I paid the check with cash, noting she didn't even glance at the amount, comfortable in her world, where grandfathers handled such details. Walking to the parking lot, Clara linked her arm through mine the way she had as a child. I'm so glad you and Delmar are working things out. He was worried you were upset with him. I agreed to Sunday dinner, knowing it might be the last peaceful meal our family would share. Sunday afternoon brought the promised family dinner, and with it, the unraveling of everything I thought I understood about my son-in-law. Clara arrived first with the grandchildren, their laughter filling my house with familiar warmth, while I set the dining room table with Margaret's good china. Delmar appeared 30 minutes later, looking haggard despite his expensive suit. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his usually perfect hair showed signs of stress. He greeted everyone with forced enthusiasm, but his hands shook slightly when he hugged the children. Long drive from San Francisco, he explained, loosening his tie. Client meetings ran later than expected. His phone buzzed constantly during the greeting process, text after text, each notification causing his jaw to tighten further. He glanced at the screen repeatedly, fingers hovering over the keyboard, but never quite responding. Why don't you freshen up while I finish dinner? Clara suggested, stirring gravy at the stove. Dad's been looking forward to this all day. Good idea. 10 minutes in the shower should help. Delmar placed his phone on the living room side table, near my favorite armchair. Don't let dinner get cold for me. The shower started running upstairs. Clara called the children to wash their hands. Normal family dinner preparations continued around me while I pretended to read the Sunday paper. My attention focused entirely on the device Delmar had left behind. The first message arrived 2 minutes after the shower began. The phone screen lit up, displaying a preview. Tomorrow we move forward. Documentation ready. Need confirmation? My heart hammered against my ribs. I glanced toward the kitchen where Clara hummed while stirring. Then at the ceiling, where shower water ran steadily overhead. Another message. If he finds out the truth, get rid of him. Can't risk exposure now. The words blurred as my vision tunneled. Get rid of him. They were discussing my elimination with the casual tone of planning a business meeting. Dad, Can you check if that's an emergency? Clara's voice drifted from the kitchen. Delmar's expecting an important call from his partner. His partner. I moved toward the phone as casually as possible, my engineering mind cataloging every detail, even as my body fought to process the threat. The sender's name was clearly visible, Burl Shaw. I lifted the phone, hands trembling slightly. 30 years of reading blueprints taught me to absorb information quickly, and this blueprint detailed my death. Old man getting suspicious, might need to accelerate timeline. Medical evaluation scheduled for Tuesday morning. Doctor is cooperative. Cleanup afterwards should be simple. Accidental overdose of heart medication. Each message was a nail in my coffin, literally. They planned to have me declared incompetent, transfer my property to Delmar as guardian, then eliminate me with my own heart medication to make it look accidental. The engineering mind that caught manufacturing defects now processed a threat to my life with systematic precision. Timeline, Tuesday morning. Method, forced medical evaluation followed by medication overdose. Motive, property acquisition and debt relief. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the phone. The shower water still ran overhead. Clara's voice carried from the kitchen, discussing homework schedules with the grandchildren. Normal family Sunday sounds, while I discovered a conspiracy to murder me. Dad, is everything okay? Clara appeared in the doorway, wooden spoon in hand. Fine, sweetheart, just checking the time. I forced my voice to remain steady, though my heart hammered so hard I was sure she could hear it. Dinner smells wonderful. She smiled and disappeared back into the kitchen. I quickly memorized the visible messages before placing the phone back in its exact position. The screen went dark, but the words burned in my memory. Tomorrow we move forward. Get rid of him. Accidental overdose. From upstairs, Delmar's voice echoed through the bathroom door. Hey Clara, did anyone touch my phone? I left it on the table, but it seems moved. I settled into my armchair with the newspaper, forcing my breathing to slow. Still right here, son. Nobody's touched it. The shower continued running. More messages arrived, each notification a countdown to my execution. I needed to see the rest of those messages, and I had maybe 3 minutes before he came downstairs. The shower was still running. Clara was focused on dinner. I had minutes, maybe less. I moved back to the phone with calculated precision, the same methodical approach I'd used for 40 years of quality control. Each message was evidence. Each timestamp was data that could save my life. Scrolling through the conversation thread, I found the beginning of their plan. Burl Shaw appeared to be more than just a gambling partner. He had connections to corrupt medical professionals, document forgers, and cleanup specialists. Documents ready. Need to move tomorrow. After incompetency signing, house automatically transfers to you as guardian. Old man starting to suspect. Might need to accelerate timeline. Medical evaluation scheduled for Tuesday morning. Doctor is cooperative. If he refuses to go, we use Plan B. I have the medication. My hands trembled as I read the final exchange. Cleanup afterwards should be simple. Accidental overdose of heart medication. Natural causes for a man his age. 30 years in quality control taught me to document everything. I pulled out my smartphone, disabled the camera flash, and began photographing the evidence. Each screenshot captured not just the words, but the sender information and timestamps that would prove premeditation. The pattern was clear. They planned to eliminate me within 48 hours. Burl Shaw. I memorized the name, noting his profile picture showed a middle-aged man in expensive clothes, professional appearance masking criminal intent. More messages revealed the scope of their operation. Shaw had arranged fraudulent medical documentation, a cooperative doctor who would declare me mentally incompetent, and legal paperwork that would automatically transfer my property to Delmar upon my incapacitation. I approached this like analyzing a failed component, systematically, thoroughly. Each message photographed, each detail memorized, each timestamp noted for the authorities. From the kitchen came Clara's voice. Tommy, set the silverware properly. Sarah, help your brother. Innocent family sounds while I documented evidence of my planned murder. The shower water began to fade. 8 minutes had elapsed. I had perhaps 4 minutes before Delmar returned. My phone's gallery now contained a dozen screenshots, but I needed the most recent messages that had arrived during my reading. Phase 1 complete tomorrow, paperwork signed under duress if necessary. Phase 2, Tuesday morning, medical evaluation, have restraints ready if needed. Phase 3 Tuesday evening, accidental overdose, timing critical. Each phase meticulously planned, professionally executed. This wasn't desperate improvisation. It was calculated murder, screenshot, next message, screenshot again. Cleanup crew contacted. Scene will appear natural. Grief-stricken family won't question sudden death. As I photographed the final message about heart medication overdose, the full scope of their plan crystallized into a cold certainty that tomorrow might be my last day alive. Delmar's voice carried from upstairs. Almost finished up here. How's dinner coming? 5 more minutes, Clara called back cheerfully. I had less than 3 minutes to complete documentation and return the phone to its exact position. My engineering training kicked in, memorized the placement, photographed the evidence, restore original conditions. The phone's weight, its angle on the table, the exact distance from the lamp base, all details that mattered if I wanted to survive this. More messages arrived even as I worked. Emergency contingency. If discovery imminent, implement immediately. Cannot allow exposure. They had backup plans for backup plans. Professional killers masquerading as a son-in-law and his business partner. I photographed everything accessible, my hands steadying as systematic documentation replaced panic. This was a problem to solve, evidence to preserve, a case to build for law enforcement. Footsteps overhead indicated Delmar was finishing. I had perhaps 90 seconds to complete the evidence gathering and assume normal grandfather behavior. The final visible message chilled me. Subject shows signs of suspicion. Accelerate timeline. Execute phase 1 tonight if necessary. Tonight. They were ready to kill me tonight if I showed any awareness of their plan. After Delmar's family left at 8 p.m., I spent an hour staring at the photos on my phone before accepting I needed professional help to survive the next 24 hours. My home office had never felt more like a fortress than it did at 9:30 on Sunday night. I sat surrounded by printed screenshots, organized in numbered manila folders the way I'd learned to document manufacturing defects 40 years ago in Detroit. 40 years in quality control taught me documentation saves lives. Tonight, proper documentation might literally save mine. I dialed Elvin Gordon's home number, noting the late hour but understanding the urgency. 3 rings. 4. Finally, his familiar voice answered with slight irritation. Cornelius, it's past 10. What's wrong? Elvin, I need your help immediately. Professional help. I kept my voice steady despite the gravity of what I was about to reveal. My son-in-law is planning to kill me tomorrow afternoon. Silence. Then, that's a serious accusation. What evidence do you have? I'm emailing you photographs right now. Text messages between Delmar and his partner discussing my murder in detail. I attached the screenshot files to an email, each image labeled with timestamps and case numbers like the systematic engineer I'd always been. Send. Delivery confirmed. Give me 5 minutes to review these, then call me back. While waiting, I printed backup copies on my home printer, organizing them chronologically. Each page went into a labeled folder. Evidence Package 1, Original Messages. Evidence Package 2, Timeline Analysis. Evidence Package 3, Suspect Profiles. Margaret always said, I overthink problems, but tonight thorough thinking might save my life. The phone rang. Elvin's voice had transformed from sleepy irritation to professional alarm. Cornelius, these messages are genuinely threatening, but the court will need more evidence for an arrest. What more do I need? They're planning to declare me incompetent. We need audio recordings of conversations or documents about the forgery. Can you record his phone conversations? I tested my smartphone's recording function, checking battery life and storage space. I'll try. But what if they act tomorrow? We'll contact police first thing Monday morning. Meanwhile, don't let him into the house alone. Every engineer knows backup systems are critical when primary systems fail. I created digital copies on 3 separate devices, uploaded files to cloud storage, and emailed copies to my own backup accounts. Elvin, what are the legal procedures? How long before police can act? With this evidence, they'll take it seriously. But arrests require probable cause beyond text messages. The recording would establish intent and conspiracy. I approach this like a system failure analysis. Gather data, identify root cause, implement solution. The data was clear. Delmar and Burrell Shaw planned my death. The root cause was gambling debts requiring property acquisition. The solution required law enforcement intervention. From my office window, I could see the empty street where tomorrow's confrontation would unfold. Normal suburban houses with normal families, unaware that murder was being planned 3 blocks away. What about protective custody? Can police provide security? Possibly, but first we need enough evidence for an arrest warrant. Elvin's voice carried the weight of professional experience. Cornelius, I'm preparing emergency motions tonight. If you can get audio evidence tomorrow morning, we might have enough. I set my phone to record mode and tested various positions around the house for optimal audio capture. Kitchen counter near the coffee maker. Delmar often stopped by Monday mornings to check if I'd changed my mind about the documents. As I labeled the final folder containing proof of my son-in-law's murder plot, I realized that tomorrow would determine whether my engineering methodology would overcome their criminal desperation. Monday morning arrived with unexpected opportunity. Delmar's BMW in my driveway when I thought he was at work, and his voice carrying clearly across the yard as he paced my back patio. I had returned from emptying the mailbox when I spotted the car. My first instinct was confusion. His logistics company operated early morning shifts. Then I heard him talking loudly, apparently on a phone call, believing the house empty since my Honda wasn't visible from the back. Moving quickly through my kitchen, I grabbed the recording phone and slipped out the side door into Margaret's garden. The rose bushes she'd planted along the property line provided perfect concealment, and the morning breeze carried his voice with startling clarity. Burrell, did the doctor sign the certificate? Good. Come at 3. We'll make this happen. I crouched behind the garden shed, approximately 15 feet from the patio, my phone positioned for optimal audio pickup. The device showed full battery and adequate storage space for extended recording. The old man has to sign today, or tomorrow the creditors take my car. 40 years of patience learned from factory troubleshooting kept me motionless despite my arthritic knees protesting the cramped position. This was the evidence Elvin needed. What if he refuses to go to the doctor? Burrell's voice was tinny but audible through the phone speaker. Then we use Plan B. I have the sleeping medication. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I forced myself to remain still. The morning sun created shadow patterns that helped conceal my position behind Margaret's climbing roses. What about afterwards? Cleanup? Simple. Accidental overdose of his heart medication. Happens to old people all the time. The casual tone with which they discussed my murder was more chilling than any threat. These weren't desperate criminals. They were methodical killers treating my death like a business transaction. Bird songs provided audio camouflage while I continued recording. Neighbor's lawnmower in the distance created background noise, but Delmar's agitated voice cut through everything. Listen carefully, Burrell. Phase 1 at 3 p.m. sharp. Bring the restraints if he won't cooperate. What about the daughter? Will she interfere? Clara's teaching until 4. She won't know anything until it's over. Rose thorns caught on my jacket as I shifted positions slightly, trying to maintain clear audio without revealing my presence. The scent of blooming jasmine filled the morning air, creating surreal contrast with the sinister conversation happening 15 feet away. Phase 2, tomorrow morning. Medical evaluation with our cooperative doctor. Documentation of incompetency gets filed immediately. And Phase 3, tomorrow night. Heart medication overdose while he's sedated from the medical procedure. Natural progression for an elderly man under stress. 15 minutes of recorded evidence. Conspiracy, premeditation, detailed planning, timeline coordination. Everything law enforcement would need for multiple felony charges. Emergency backup plan if anything goes wrong. We implement immediately. Cannot allow exposure of our other operations. Other operations. This wasn't their first time. Professional criminals who had killed before would kill again unless stopped. My phone battery showed minimal drain from continuous recording. Sound quality appeared excellent despite outdoor conditions. Chain of custody established. I was the only person handling the device. I'm driving over now. 3 p.m. exactly. Have everything ready. Understood. See you then. The call ended. Delmar's footsteps crossed the wooden patio boards, heading toward the side gate. In moments, he would drive away, unaware that his entire murder plot had been recorded. As I crouched behind the roses Margaret had planted to create beauty, I listened to her daughter's husband plan my murder with the casual efficiency of ordering office supplies. His BMW engine started. Tires crunched on gravel. The sound faded as he drove toward whatever appointment preceded my scheduled execution. I waited 3 full minutes before emerging from the garden, my knees protesting every movement. The recording showed 17 minutes of crystal-clear audio evidence. As his BMW disappeared around the corner, I looked at the 17-minute recording on my phone and knew I finally had enough evidence to stop him, but only if I could reach the authorities before 3 p.m. I was inside and dialing 911 before Delmar's car had fully disappeared, the recorded evidence of my planned murder still playing on my phone's speaker. 911, what's your emergency? This is Cornelius Holmes at 1247 Maple Street, Glendale. I have recordings of my son-in-law planning to drug me and fake my death today at 3 p.m. Sir, are you certain you are in immediate danger? I have 17 minutes of recorded conversation detailing a 3-phase murder plan. I'm emailing the evidence to you now. While staying on the line, I forwarded the audio file to the emergency services email address the operator provided. Engineering precision kept my voice steady despite the magnitude of what I was reporting. We're dispatching officers immediately. Do you have the evidence with you? Multiple copies stored on different devices. My attorney is bringing hard copies to the station right now. I had called Elvin immediately after hanging up with 911. He was already in his car, driving to the police station with printed transcripts and backup recordings. Mr. Holmes, Detective Martinez is being assigned to your case. He'll arrive within the hour to review evidence. I spent the waiting time creating additional backups, cloud storage, email copies to multiple accounts, USB drives hidden in different locations throughout the house. Every engineer knows redundancy prevents catastrophic failure. My home security system activated with the police priority code, door locks checked, window latches secure, heart medication taken preventively, phone charged to full capacity. At 11:30, Detective Martinez arrived with 2 patrol officers, professional, thorough, treating my case with the seriousness it deserved, rather than dismissing an elderly man's concerns. Mr. Holmes, we've reviewed your evidence package. This is solid intelligence about a planned felony assault. They mentioned restraints, forced medical evaluation, fake incompetency documentation. We're coordinating with several divisions: elder abuse, fraud, violent crimes. Your attorney confirmed the authenticity of all recordings. I provided detailed timeline information. Delmar's expected arrival at 3 p.m., Burl Shaw's participation, the backup location they had mentioned for document signing. Detective, what about my daughter? They specifically mentioned she'd be teaching until 4. We'll have units positioned at her school for protection. This appears to be organized criminal activity beyond simple family disputes. The complexity of their response impressed me. Multiple agencies coordinating because my systematic documentation had provided comprehensive evidence rather than vague accusations. Mr. Holmes, we need you to continue normal activities until 2:30. Act surprised when they arrive. We'll have surveillance teams in position. What if they suspect something? They mentioned emergency protocols. That's why we're moving fast. Arrest warrants are being processed now. I tested my phone's recording function one final time, ensuring optimal battery life and storage capacity. The device that had captured evidence of my planned murder would now document their arrest. From my office window, I watched unmarked police vehicles taking positions throughout the neighborhood. Professional law enforcement coordinating their response to protect an elderly engineer who had refused to become a victim. Units will be in position by 2:30. Stay visible through your front window so we can monitor your safety. 2 hours until the scheduled confrontation. 2 hours to see whether the system would protect an old man from his son-in-law's deadly greed. As I watched 3 different law enforcement agencies coordinate their response to my son-in-law's murder plot, I felt the first moment of genuine hope that I might survive to see another sunset in Margaret's garden. All preparations complete, evidence secured, professional backup arranged. Now came the hardest part, waiting to see whether justice would arrive before murder. At exactly 2:30, I heard car doors slam in my driveway, 2 of them, and knew my performance for survival was about to begin. The sound echoed through my quiet house like gunshots, and I forced myself to appear relaxed in my favorite armchair despite my racing heart. Through the front window, I watched Delmar emerge from his BMW, while a stocky man in an expensive suit climbed out of a black sedan. Burl Shaw, no doubt. My phone showed full battery, recording app ready. The evidence folders sat casually on the side table, appearing like normal afternoon paperwork rather than documentation of attempted murder. The doorbell rang. I counted to 5 before answering, giving myself time to slip into the confused elderly man persona that might save my life. "Cornelius, good afternoon." Delmar's smile looked painted on, stress showing through his fake cheerfulness. "This is Burl Shaw, the notary I mentioned." Burl Shaw stood shorter than expected, but radiated professional menace. Expensive clothes, cold eyes, leather briefcase that clicked ominously when he set it down. Not the kind of man you'd trust with a pet, much less legal documents. "Come in, I suppose." I shuffled slightly, playing the part. "Though I'm not sure why this couldn't wait until Clara gets home." "The doctor has a tight schedule," Delmar explained, spreading documents across my coffee table with practiced efficiency. "This is just routine paperwork for insurance purposes." I squinted at the papers, buying time while my heart hammered. "These look complicated. What exactly am I signing?" "Nothing major," Burl interjected, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to intimidating people. "Standard medical evaluation consent forms." "Medical evaluation?" I let confusion creep into my voice. "Why do I need a medical evaluation? I feel fine." Delmar's jaw tightened slightly. "It's for the estate planning, remember? We discussed this." We had never discussed any such thing, but I nodded slowly, pretending to remember conversations that never happened. Every second of confusion bought time for the police to get into position. "I see. And you are?" I looked directly at Burl. "Notary public. After the doctor's evaluation, we'll need to certify the documents." He positioned himself between me and the phone, a movement so subtle it appeared coincidental. My phone buzzed. Text message. I fumbled for it with shaking hands, appearing to struggle with the device while actually checking Elvin's update. "Police in position. Keep stalling." "Sorry, arthritis makes these things difficult." I squinted at the screen, pretending to have trouble reading. "Mr. Holmes, we're running late." Burl's voice carried a harder edge now. "The doctor has other patients waiting." Of course. I picked up the first document, holding it at arm's length. "Do you have my reading glasses? I can't make out this fine print." Delmar retrieved glasses from my side table, his movements growing more agitated. The confident son-in-law was being replaced by someone desperate enough to kill for money. "Perhaps I should call Clara," I mused, reaching for the phone. "She handles all my medical appointments." "She's teaching," Delmar snapped, then caught himself. "I mean, she's busy at work. No need to bother her with paperwork." I fumbled with the phone, pretending to dial while actually sending another text to Elvin. "They're getting impatient. How long?" His reply came immediately. 5 minutes. 5 minutes to maintain this performance without triggering their emergency plan. 5 minutes to stay alive. Actually, I need to use the bathroom first. I stood slowly, genuinely feeling my age for the first time in years. Old bladder, you understand. Burl stepped slightly closer to the door while I was gone, positioning himself strategically. Through the bathroom mirror, I could see him checking his watch, whispering something to Delmar. When I returned, the atmosphere had changed. Both men showed signs of barely controlled urgency. "Mr. Holmes, we really need to go now," Burl said firmly. "The sedative works better on an empty stomach." Sedative. The word slipped out accidentally, confirming everything I'd recorded that morning. I pretended not to catch the significance. "What sedative? I thought this was just a consultation." "For the procedure," Delmar covered quickly. "Minor relaxation medication. Perfectly normal." Nothing about this was normal, but I nodded as if accepting the explanation. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of movement. Unmarked cars in position, officers ready. Delmar grabbed my arm, his grip tighter than necessary. "Come on, we're already 15 minutes behind schedule." As he pulled me toward the door, the distant sound of sirens cut through the afternoon air, and I saw his confident expression crack for the first time. The sirens grew louder, and through the front window, I watched 3 police cars surround my house with the precision of a military operation. "What's happening?" Delmar's voice cracked as he released my arm, his face draining of color. Burl Shaw's reaction was more calculating. He immediately moved toward his briefcase, probably to destroy evidence, but Detective Martinez was already through the front door with 2 officers behind him. "Police! Everyone remain where you are!" The transformation in both men was instantaneous. Delmar stumbled backward, knocking over a side table, while Burrell raised his hands with the practiced calm of someone who'd been arrested before. "Mr. Holmes, you're safe now. We received your evidence package." Detective Martinez's professional competence filled the room with authority. "This is all a misunderstanding." Delmar's voice rose to near hysteria. "I was just trying to help my father-in-law." I pointed to the documents scattered across my coffee table. "Officer, I have audio recordings of their conversation about forcing me to sign documents and faking my death." "I don't know anything." Burrell's calm cracked slightly. "I was just hired to notarize documents." Detective Martinez nodded to his officers, who began securing the scene. One photographed the document spread, another started examining Burrell's briefcase. Professional efficiency at its finest. "Mr. Ramos, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and elder abuse." The detective's voice carried the weight of certainty. "You have the right to remain silent." "You don't understand. I have debts. I was trying to protect the family." Delmar's desperation transformed him from predator to pathetic creature, but my sympathy had evaporated along with my trust. Officer Martinez opened Burrell's briefcase, revealing small bottles and syringes along with forged medical documents. "Sir, we found sedatives and fraudulent paperwork. That's additional charges." Both men had tried to rush toward my back door when they heard the sirens, but officers were waiting there too. Professional law enforcement had anticipated every escape route these amateurs might consider. The house filled with controlled activity, evidence photography, Miranda rights recitation, neighbor crowd control outside. My quiet suburban afternoon had become a crime scene, but one where justice was finally asserting itself. "Mr. Holmes, we'll need your full statement, but the recordings and screenshots you provided give us everything we need for prosecution." Detective Martinez spoke with genuine respect rather than condescension. Delmar continued protesting his innocence, even as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. "Cornelius, tell them this is a mistake. I would never hurt you." But I remembered his casual discussion of heart medication overdose, his timeline for my elimination, his complete lack of concern for Clara and the grandchildren who would grieve my accidental death. "You discussed killing me like planning a business meeting," I replied quietly. "There's no mistake here." Burrell Shaw maintained his professional criminal silence as officers led him toward a patrol car. He understood the legal system well enough to know that cooperation might reduce his sentence, but silence couldn't make the evidence disappear. Through my front window, I watched neighbors gathering on the sidewalk, drawn by the unusual police presence. Normal suburban afternoon, disrupted by the reality that evil sometimes wears familiar faces. The evidence bags contained documents that would have stolen my property and life. The briefcase held chemicals that would have ended my existence. The recordings captured voices planning my murder, all of it heading to a prosecutor's office where justice would finally have its day. "We'll need you available for testimony, but you won't be alone in this process," Detective Martinez assured me. "Elder abuse cases get serious attention from our department." 2 patrol cars pulled away, with my would-be killers inside, their partnership dissolved under the weight of arrest. Delmar's face appeared briefly in the rear window, not evil anymore, just broken and defeated. As I watched Delmar being loaded into the patrol car, I felt not triumph, but sadness that my daughter's husband had chosen greed over family, forcing me to choose survival over her happiness. As the last police car disappeared around the corner, I sat in the sudden silence and realized the hardest part wasn't over. I still had to tell my daughter that her husband had planned to murder me. Clara's Honda pulled into the driveway just as I finished putting away the last police evidence receipt, and I knew the conversation I'd been dreading was about to begin. She walked through the front door with her usual end-of-workday weariness, carrying a bag of student papers and wearing the cheerful expression she maintained despite life's challenges. Her smile faltered when she noticed the formal documents still scattered on my coffee table. "Dad, what's all this paperwork, and why do I smell coffee so late in the day?" I had prepared tea instead, her favorite chamomile blend that Margaret used to make during difficult conversations. The familiar ritual would provide comfort for what was coming. "Sweetheart, please sit down. We need to talk about something important." Clara's teacher instincts recognized serious tone immediately. She set down her papers, accepting the warm cup with hands that trembled slightly. "Is this about you and Delmar? He seemed so stressed this morning when he left for work." "Clara, Delmar wasn't at work today. He was here, trying to force me to sign documents that would transfer the house to his name." I began gently, showing her the forged signatures first. Her engineering professor father had taught her to examine details carefully, and the inconsistencies were obvious once pointed out. "These aren't your signatures," she said slowly, her voice beginning to shake. "No, they're not, but that's not the worst part." I played the audio recording from this morning's garden surveillance, watching Clara's face transform as she heard her husband discussing my elimination with clinical detachment. "Dad, I can't believe this. How could I have been so blind?" "Sweetheart, you trusted someone you loved. That's not a flaw, it's who you are." The tears came then, for her marriage, for her children's father, for the family she'd thought she had. I held her while she processed the magnitude of Delmar's betrayal and how close she'd come to losing her father. "But the children, how do I explain that their father is in jail? We'll handle it together. The important thing is you're all safe, and the house stays in our family." Clara pulled back, studying my face with new understanding. "You figured this out by yourself? Gathered evidence, contacted police, protected all of us? Your mother always said I was too stubborn to quit when something mattered." I touched her cheek gently. "You and those grandchildren matter more than anything." We spent the next hour reviewing everything, the timeline, the evidence, the legal proceedings ahead. Clara's shock gradually transformed into appreciation for her father's competence and fierce protectiveness. "I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you. You always saw his true nature. You don't need to apologize for having a good heart, Clara. That's what your mother loved most about you." As evening settled around us, we made practical plans. Clara and the children would stay here temporarily while divorce proceedings began. Elvin would handle legal coordination. School counselors would help Tommy and Sarah process their father's absence. "The garden needs tending," Clara observed, looking through the kitchen window at Margaret's roses. "Mom always said difficult seasons make flowers bloom stronger." She was talking about more than flowers. I squeezed Clara's hand. "This family has survived worse than Delmar's greed." We called the grandchildren together, explaining in age-appropriate terms that Daddy had made serious mistakes and would be away for a long time. Their resilience amazed me. Children adapt to truth more easily than adults adapt to lies. That night, as Clara tucked Tommy and Sarah into their temporary beds in the guest rooms, I sat in Margaret's garden, watching stars appear above the climbing roses she'd trained with such patient care. Justice had been served, but more importantly, family had been preserved. The house would remain in loving hands, passing eventually to grandchildren who would tend both garden and memory with the same dedication Margaret and I had shown. Clara joined me on the porch, carrying 2 cups of coffee, and the peaceful expression she'd worn before Delmar's manipulation began. "Tomorrow the children want to help plant something new in Grandma's garden," she said softly. "Something that will grow strong and beautiful." "Then that's exactly what we'll do." As we sat together in the garden where her mother had taught her to dream big dreams, I realized that Delmar's betrayal had actually brought us closer together than we'd been since Margaret's passing, and that sometimes the most beautiful blooms emerge from the darkest soil. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.